Hello, everyone, and welcome to Higher Perspectives. I have been getting questions from clients and other people viewing the YouTube channel about energy, about how to read it, about what that means to read it, about healing, and also about why I call myself a mystic instead of a psychic, and how people can access this idea of reading energy or the ability to do it. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time on that today. I want to explain a little bit about that from my perspective. Might be the same or different from others, but this has been a very long journey for me. And I will start by saying that perceiving energy is something that we all do all the time. When we walk into a room and we can say, "Oh, suddenly I don't feel well," and I felt really fine before I walked in. That's reading energy. When you talk to a person and you begin to feel like you're concerned about them, but they're not saying anything you should be concerned about, that's using your intuition. That's reading energy. That's reading their energy. So every one of us is reading energy all the time. What I do is I make it a conscious choice, and I practiced it to the point where the discipline of intuitive intelligence has become something that's now coherent, and I can read energy in a way that creates quick meaning of things and relate it to someone's soul level. So let me go back. So perceiving energy is what we do all day long. And reading energy is something that we can do explicitly and consciously, all of us. All of us can play the piano, right? We can all play the piano. Some of us are born Mozart, so we have a little more proclivity to it when we start, but all of us can play the piano. So when I started, and the reason I call myself a mystic instead of a psychic is because my gifts started through a relationship. And if you've read my book, Mapping a New Reality, you know that I went to Mass with my mother when I was 6 years old. Starting at 6 years old, I went every day because one, it was to be with my mom. And when I have now 10 brothers and sisters, and at the time I think I had 5. And so it was pretty crowded, and I wanted some time with her. So it gave me that opportunity, but instead of it being time with her, it ended up to be an opening to a door on a portal, which all of you know this. You have all been perhaps to some place that you'd never been before, but it suddenly feels familiar. Most of us have that feeling in some way, shape, or form. I know clients that have told me, well, I went to Paris and I knew how to give this guy directions and I'd never been there. And so we're tapping into something, whether you call them past lives, parallel lives, or some sort of collective unconscious, but it's very specific. We don't go everywhere and feel like we know how to give directions. It's only that one place. And when I went to church with my mother, I felt that it was extremely familiar to me as a 6-year-old. And I had no ego to say that was a good idea or not, or what. It was just simply dear to me. It was something that felt good to me to be there. And I felt it felt familiar and warm and good. That's why I went every day. But it became something of a conversation between myself and spirit. In my case, my mother's were Catholic, 10 brothers and sisters. So it was a relationship with Christ, and it was in my heart. And I was too young to make anything intellectual up about this. And so it became a relationship where I was guided, sometimes with great sensitivities that I had, and a lot of overwhelm. Even though it was a happy family, it was a very busy chaos all the time, and overwhelm for someone who's sensitive. And it was almost like when I would go there was a way that I could be guided to find a portal through which I was understood, I was seen, and I did not have to, I wasn't overwhelmed. I was taken up. As the near-death experience people will tell you, they're taken out of body and sent into this place where there is unconditional love, and they don't want to come back. And that's what it was like for me all the time. So I did 20 years where I was really being schooled through a relationship about what it means to trust without evidence and believe without seeing, and to understand the meaning behind things. And that's why what it is a mystic is having a relationship with the mystery of life, right? It isn't just like, oh, I happen to know the future and I'll tell you, well, I can do that, but I find it highly uncreative to know the future and then think, oh, well, I don't have to pay attention in present time because I know it's going to happen. So I don't contribute that way, even though my capacities allow me to. But through that journey, that relationship became and remains more important to me than anything I actually do with it in the world. I've worked very hard to make it coherent and to make it a quick read so that I can move to meaning at a soul level for someone. And that's why I'm doing it. Although I can help businesses be more productive, I can help businesses with a better bottom line. I can tell them what clients are best fit. I can tell them what people in what positions might be best fit. But and strategically how to innovate so that you can make this whole entity more conscious and the leader themselves. Yes, but what I'm really doing is have a relationship with the mystery, the divine. If I can accommodate, youth as I have done and reading and helping them to understand their purpose and helping the parents to understand how to support them, or helping a person on a consciousness path, that's great. But for me, I'm in it for the relationship with the divine. That's where I get fed. And as long as I'm in that relationship, and I pay more attention to that relationship than I do how other people make meaning in the world, then I stay balanced and coherent so that I can then do the same for others. So that's why I call myself, I'm a mystic with psychic symptoms. Let's put it that way. But I want to speak for a moment about how all of us are reading energy, but we have these intuitive portals, and many of us know these. We have the overlay of the chakra system, this 6,000-year-old Hindu map of consciousness that overlays our energy field and is seen by mystics for thousands of years as the same, no matter who is doing the viewing. It's very much the same map over time. So in that way, you could almost say there's a scientific aspect to that persistent perception. But these portals really are both receptor and perceptor sites. You perceive through them and you receive through them. And every one of us has a strength and preference, whether or not we know it. And we can tell what that strength or preference is pretty easily by how, when we have some sort of what we might call a gut feel or an intuitive hit. In fact, if you have a gut feel a lot, that probably means you're empathic or clairsentient, as they call it. If you say your language really speaks to what your intuitive strength and preference is. Some people have dreams. That's images. That's the third eye, the eye, right? Sees images. People, oh, I heard a voice. Don't get on that train. Don't get on that plane. It's a voice. That's here. That's called clairaudience. It means clear hearing. It means hearing into the mystery of the truth of what's best for your highest good and safety in the moment. That's what intuition is about. It helps you to feel safe. It helps you to remain safe on your journey, and it helps you bring insight and progress to your spiritual journey as you go. That is the purpose of it. We may use it for lots of other things, but that is essentially what it's there to help us with. So we can perceive through our strengths and preferences. We have these precognitive dreams, or we can see into other realms. Some people see people who have passed. Some people hear people who have passed. Some people only feel the coldness when I'm near someone who I think is a ghost, right? Because these different capacities are perceiving that stimuli in certain ways. So we're receiving those signals, we're perceiving them and receiving them, and we receive that data. And then the question, though, is what do we do with it? A lot of times we run away. Oh, it's scary. Uh-oh, it told me what to do. I better not pay any attention to that. Let's get under the covers. And I don't know anyone who's ever said, well, I had that important hit and I knew that's what I was supposed to do and I didn't do it. And boy, am I glad I didn't. Because it's there to help us and it's connected to our creative purpose. Our intuition is wired to our creative purpose and it's there to support it and to help us to extend the expression of it. So when we listen to it, that's what happens, which is a lovely outcome. So does everyone have it? As I said, yes, everyone has it. And one of the ways that you can extend your strength and preference is to tune into it, to explore it by being quiet and beginning to tune into the sensations of the body. The body's a very helpful partner in intuitive intelligence. In fact, as long as we are human beings, intuition is going to work through the sensations or through the body. Now, there's other people who are outside their body and they're dreaming, right? You can dream in disembodied ways, right? But when you're every day, you can tell people who aren't in their bodies. They're not present. They trip over things. They miss details. They're either overwhelmed, and therefore they no longer can, their cerebral cortex is no longer functional and they're going to fight or flight, or they're out of their body. And sometimes that's the same thing. They're out of their body. You can tell that they're not present. They can't get themselves grounded. We use these terms regularly, but they're energetically based terms. When you are grounded, it means that you feel safe in the world. There's a lot of people that don't feel safe in the world. So when I look at them energetically, what I'll call their connection with the ground is tenuous. And we'll work on that. We'll get that to be a little bit more familiar. And there's a lot of healing sometimes that needs to happen for people to recover their power that they've left behind. If people are feeling guilty, or that they have a belief system that they need to take care of everyone, well, they often have stomach problems, and they're overwhelmed. They gain weight. They can't lose. They can't sleep at night. They can't make good decisions. Why? Because they've taken on other people's energy as an obligation, and they carry it around with them, and it's not their energy. And you're not built to process anyone's energy but your own. So there you go. If you are someone who has a gift of clairsentience, which is empathy, the idea is to honor your own feelings first, put your own oxygen mask on before helping others, and not to let anyone else into your field, your auric field, which is, by the way, 2 feet around you. Remember Da Vinci's man? He has his hands straight out. Well, at the edges of your fingertips, that's the edge of your auric field. That's how much energy, if any mystic psychic looks at you and can see through the third eye, they will see that big of a field. Now, they can also see that you're only claiming the power of a little bit of it, or they can see that you're all balled up inside yourself and you're not even taking any responsibility for the boundary of your body because you're so afraid to take your power. But they can see that the capacity that you have is the same. It's the same for everyone. What's the capacity of our auric field, and what we really are entitled to in terms of our power. So, if you start to shrink yourself and say, I can't really, I'm not going to own my power, you're giving permission for other people to like rear end you, or to upend you, or to, and to not see you and have you at a decision-making table, and you say something and nobody says anything, and the guy next to you says something and they go, oh, well, that was insightful. They can't see you. They can't hear you because you're not occupying your power. And so you're not presencing who you are there. So you're energetically, people are reading you energetically all the time. They can't see you. So it's really important to occupy all of that. And how do you do this? It's not magic. It's actually in visualization. Those powerful visualizations, meditation, and imagining, right? The brain does not know the difference. The same part of the brain is stimulated, whether you're doing something or whether you're imagining doing something. And the richer the details are that you give it, the richer the feelings you have about it as you're imagining it, the brain can't tell the difference. So you can imagine that, if you can imagine, then is your auric field is here, as I say, seen by those who can see energy for thousands of years. If you imagine that all filled up and you practice that with your brain, you'll fill that all up. And there's other ways where people walk into the room and people say, oh, that person takes up all the space in the room. They take up all the energy in the room. They are talking about energy. They're reading energy. They're taking up the room. They're extending that auric field all the way out to the edges of that room, and they're taking up all the space. Those are big personalities. They're big people. They want everybody to see them. And so they're extending that. There's consequences to that too, because if you're sensitive, you're actually in other people's information fields, and you're going to be picking up information that isn't yours. And when you go to make a decision, that can become a little daunting. But it's helpful to know that you are entitled to your boundaries, to having them not be permeable, but being very firm, not allowing other people to come in, but doing the work that you feel is most important in life and then dedicating it to them. Think of radiating it out rather than pulling people in, because every time you pull people in, you weigh yourself down, literally, figuratively, imaginally. So let them go because they all have power. You have to trust that people all have power the same as you. They've just forgotten in this moment a certain kind of power that they need in that moment to feel whole. So the best thing that you can do when someone has something and they're in need, of course, you can always take care of that need. Not a problem. Lovely to do. Relieves them of the stress of the moment. But you can also say, I'm so sorry that you're feeling that way. You know, when you're talking about that, you sound discouraged, but I know you're a very courageous person. I've seen you use that quality in other situations, and I really trust that that's going to show up for you. And I'm right here if you want to talk about that. You see, that's an entirely different strategy for taking care of people, because in that strategy, you are trusting that they're brilliant spirits of light, that they have all their power, and that they've just forgotten some. You're here not to fix them, not to make them better, but to remind them of what's missing. And then perhaps listen as they go through, well, what does that mean that I've forgotten it? And where can I? And they'll begin to step up, because when you do that, it's like a tuning fork in their field. Oh, that's right, I've forgotten something. And they'll step up. There's a part of them that will resonate with what you're saying in truth. And that brings people up. You're lifting them up. That's how you do it. You don't lift them up by solving their problems for them. Unless they're, under, and even so, even when they're young, children have amazing capacities for innovating, creating, as you know, solutions. If you're not an anxious mom like I was, and constantly trying to help or fix or not have your child be in pain, so don't do what I do, do what I say. You can stimulate their imagination about their ability and their power to have agency over how they solve a problem or how they deal with a situation that's uncomfortable. So going back to what is reading energy, it's doing what you do every day. How do you increase your ability to do that? By recognizing first that you are doing it all the time, by imagining like your strength and preference. Do I often talk about what I hear when I'm thinking about my intuitive hits, or am I talking about how I feel, or am I talking about what I see in my dreams or my visions? And that will help you to know that is one of the strengths that you have. Or maybe you have a combo plate. Great. So then when you want to know something that you don't know in the mystery of life, you ask those parts of question. What is important to see about this situation? What's important to see about this situation? Or what's important? What should I know? What's good to hear? What would be the truth that I could hear about this situation, right? Or what's important about what the truth of the feeling that's going on here, so I can better respond to it, right? You can ask specific questions like that and then stay. The most important muscle you can develop in intuitive intelligence is staying. Like when you're in a foreign country, you have no idea why the art looks the way it does and why people are speaking a different language and relating in a different way. And the one way, most important way you can learn it is to sit at the feet of that culture with reverence and respect, knowing that there is a coherence here. You just can't figure it out yet because you don't speak the language. So instead of saying, well, that doesn't matter, those people are doing that, there's something wrong there. No, it's just a different language. And intuition is creative on the creative and abstract part of the brain, and the logical part has to be patient. It has to take a back seat. It has to wait. Visualization, meditation, just even relaxing, because you then allow information to come up in that space, and then honor what you hear or see or feel or know, and then act on it. And the more that you do that repetitively, the more that you even explicitly say to yourself, thank you. I trust you, intuition, or I trust you, guide or spirit. I trust you, inner wisdom, however you want to call that partner. Then you continue to increase the quality of the relationship you're having inside you with that wisdom partner. And that brings you greater and greater credibility with yourself, to trust yourself. And in another video, what did I say? As Megan Poe said, currency flows at the speed of trust. The more that you learn to trust yourself, trust the signals that you get, trust the images, trust the sounds, keep room for that. When you're in any relationship, you have to make room in your life to have it evolve. You can't say, oh, this person's a significant other. I just don't have any time to spend with them. You have to make time so that you can enrich that relationship through the way it evolves. You evolve together. Same thing inside. You make time, you embrace that time, and you feel that this is a trusted partner. So even if tonight isn't the night where you get some profound insight or some information, you're hanging out. You're hanging out with the part of you that is your wisdom partner. So really trust yourself more and more over time, and that voice or image or knowing or feeling becomes stronger and stronger because it knows it's invited to the table. And then you can, experiment over time with small decisions, and just make sure that you have no fear around the outcome of that decision. Because if you're saying, where am I going to get this money? And by the way, if I don't, I'll go bankrupt. The intuition isn't going to work. When fear and the amygdala is triggered, fight or flight, there's no room for neutrality. There's no room for allowing that space to be filled up with information, because when you're scared, you're all filled up with your own feelings. There's no way to learn. You have to wait until you're in neutrality. You have to ground yourself. Imagine your connection with the ground, because that's a way to say, when this information comes in, I'm going to allow it in my body because I'm going to honor the vehicle I chose to express love through this time. And you become more and more friendly with the body that is also your partner in this. So be on your own side, grow in the trust of yourself, allow judgment so that you can say hello to it and befriend it. It's not going to go away. You might as well say hello to it and say, well, that's an interesting opinion that you think I'm an idiot and that I couldn't have done that, or I shouldn't have done that, or whatever your voice sounds like. The idea is to befriend it and maybe even laugh a little when you hear it show up, because you don't take it so seriously, but it's there, just like fear. And then you continue on the path forward of trust. So I hope that's helpful, at least in getting you started in honoring yourself, honoring your own intuitive capacities, because everyone has them, moving towards your strengths and preferences, reinforcing them by the space you give it, the quality of the relationship you have with it over time, and the trust that you build in that. And I hope that you enjoyed this. If you did, please subscribe. If not, and I'll see you hopefully next time. Thank you.